Hi guys, this is Sun Notice. Hi guys, so I'm here to give you guys a movie review. This is a movie based on a true story. Well, kind of similar to based on a true story. This movie is basically called A Few Good Men. Now, now I am really going to be explaining about the entire really based on this movie. This movie review may be long. I don't know how long this really actually is going to be, but I really want to get to the point that really people to really base to understand. The actress is known. This is known as Tom. Not Tommy Lee Jones. Is known as Tom Cruise, and also I forgot the name. I forgot the name of the other girl's name. She played in the pole dancing movie. I still can't remember her name. She plays as a pole dancer or something like that. I seen it once. I seen it one time, but I have to see it again. But anyways, this movie is based on, like I said before, it's based on a true story. This movie is based on well, basically not the current events, but based on a different current events of basically what they were talking about. Basically, what talking about. So basically, the story basically starts out with basically what happened in Guantanamo Bay, basically back in Cuba, where I think I'm not really 100% sure if the U.S. was at war with Cuba during the time. I really do not know. I really do not know. And basically what happened was there was two privates, or I will say basically two corporates or two privates, whatever this basically is. Basically, this is that, and basically what they did, they did took the life of a young man named William Santiago, who happens to be a young man who was serving in the infantry, is into his platoon, basically in other words, in the Marine Corps, or whatever you want to call it, or military, you really want to call it. And I want to say here is that, well, whatever military that you or personnel basically in, when it comes to Navy, Air Force, Space Force, whatever it is, and stuff like that, or Army, or whatever, Marines, or whatever it is, or Coast Guard, or whatever that basically really actually basically is, and stuff like that. And a soldier is supposed to follow their line of duty. They're supposed to follow what they're supposed to do. If a soldier, if a commanding officer told one of their corporals or told one of them to take another person's life, that's what they have to do. That's what they're supposed to do. In my case and stuff like that, basically what I would have done, I personally would say no. I would basically never would have done that, because that's not the kind of character who basically I really am. It doesn't really matter to me if I were to be basically discharged because I disobeyed commanding order, because it doesn't matter, because it follows by a code or something like that, or anything like that. When it comes to in a different branch, or basically in a different military, they are followed by a code. They have to follow basically by that code, and that code is basically for them to basically to follow by. If they don't follow by that code, then yes, then there's just a very good possibility they could pretty much get discharged, or probably be served in prison, or I would say into the brink, which is basically a military prison where they basically go to. Then you also have basically a lawyer known as basically known AKA as Tom Cruise, or I will say AKA as I can't remember his name. It's not Jessup, Danny, named Danny. Danny is pretty much basically is the main protagonist, basically. Actually, not the main antagonist, the main protagonist basically in this movie. And then you also have the other woman that she basically have him have she basically, her name is basically Joe, the lawyer named Joe. Excuse me, not the actress named Joe, but the counsel who she appointed to Danny, to put in counsel for basically these two men that what they basically did. I want to get back about what I said here about what these two men really actually did. These two men, what they did was a direct order, and they followed by a direct order because that's what they really have to do, and stuff like that. When you go into Marine Corps or whatever military branch that you basically go into, you're asked to risk your life. You're asked to basically do that. You're asked to do that. You are asked to do that by your own superior officer, if it's a general, sergeant, or lieutenant, whoever it is, and stuff like that. You have to follow the order. But if you don't follow the order, then there's a very good possibility they could probably send you to the brink, or probably discharge you from the military and say, like, we're just going to do that and stuff like that. And if it's basically stuff, and I kind of what I personally want to say here is basically is that, like I said, if I was basically in that case, I would never would have done it, because I don't believe in taking a person's life because they disobey the order and they don't follow the code by their platoon or whatever it is, just basically stuff like that. That's something I would never do. I will never do. That's something I wouldn't do. But if they were to basically give an order, then yes, they were basically given instructed, basically given an order. That's basically what they were supposed to do. That's the order that that's the order that they were supposed to give, regardless of basically what they do. Loyalty, respect, honor, follow the code, and all that other stuff and stuff like that. And I mean, and let me just say this: I want people to really understand this and stuff like that, and I want to reinforce this for a lot of people to understand this. I want people to really understand, when you serve in the military, you are followed to obey orders, to respect, honor, and to be disciplined, whatever the status may quo, whatever this that basically is that you basically in a military branch. If you were to disobey a command order, then there's a very good possibility, yeah, you could be ejected from the base, or you could be in the brink, or basically in jail, or whatever this that basically is, and stuff like that. Basically stuff like that. I think it's really kind of sad because you see basically different kind of people that are retired from the military, or basically just end up living on the streets because they couldn't afford, because whatever some things that may have happened that may have seemed like that was just not right, or just not really wrong and stuff like that. It's a very sad situation. It really actually is. It's very sad to see these two young gentlemen being on trial because they follow an order, because it was an order that they were supposed to give. That's what they're supposed to give. Was it a code red? That's whatever debated, whatever or not, if that was a code red or basic or not. If it was a code red, then it was constructed as a code red. If it was constructed not to touch William Santiago, that means he would never. That means he should not to be touched. So if he really was not supposed to be touched, then why was the two young men was given the order to do what they did, But you have to follow in the chain of command when it comes to private, corporate, lieutenant, sergeant, colonel, general, whatever it is that maybe is, or whatever that maybe is. You have to follow those officers based off those rules. You have to follow what they say. You have to follow what they're supposed to do. That's what they're supposed to do. You don't talk back to your superior officer. That's kind of like if you were to talk back to your boss. Because if you talk back to your boss will say, "Hey, you're fired. I'm not gonna allow you to do this because I'm not gonna allow you to talk back to me because I'm your boss. And to be honest with you, I may not always agree with basically what my boss or my superior officer basically says and stuff like that. Would I follow the orders to basically take a man's life? To be honest with you, no, I would basically want to have done it. But these two men, they follow the orders because they were loyalty in the branch of what they believe in. They were trained to be that way. I don't think Marines are not really trained to be killers. I don't think Navy are. I don't think Air Force. I don't think Space Force, whatever it is, that or Coast Guard, or take as versus Coast Guards. I don't think they're not really instructed to basically take people's lives. I don't think they really are not. I don't think they've ever been trained for stuff like that. I think Coast Guards are pretty much trained for to just basically go out there in the ocean to risk their lives to save other people's lives and that's what they're supposed to do, even or whatever they're supposed to go to and stuff like that. When you have men that goes on the battlefield like the army or whoever it is, and take as for National Guard, I think they're supposed to help assist people with that flood emergencies or something like that. Let's say if the governor were to basically announce it and say like we need to ignition the National Guard to assist the people that lost their homes and stuff like that, and provide food and stuff like that, basically for them and stuff like that. And when it comes to an order, or if it comes to a president or basically someone else or something like that, those orders have to be followed. Those orders have to basically do that. That's basically what they're supposed to do. That's basically what they're supposed to do. If the president of the United States were to basically give you, if you were basically an officer in the military, and the president of the United States is asking you for a direct order, like he's talking to your general, talking to the generals, like let's say you're one of the generals, he wants to know what's going on. He wants to know what's happening. He wants to know what seems to be the problem is. He wants to really basically know. And sometimes sometimes the president of the United States will probably say like, I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear your opinion. I want to hear about this. I want to hear about that. I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's basically going on. And I will first of all say, I think the president of the United States pretty much knows what happened with the situation when Guantanamo Bay. He probably wants answers. Is probably say like, I need to know what happened and how did this happen in the first place, I'm willing to personally say here at Spaces that just because that you're an officer or a general or a colonel or whatever it is that you are, you should not have no right to abuse your power to tell somebody to take someone's own life because they didn't follow the code. That's not right. That's really is wrong. And like I said before, I will say it again, and basically in my case, I would never would have done it. I don't care if they did put me in the brink or they discharged me, I would have been okay with that. Because you know why? Because I don't believe in taking another person's life away is something I shouldn't do. It's something I shouldn't do. I go by what the Bible pretty much basically says. Say, hey, thou shalt not kill. That's what the Ten Commandments are basically there for. Thou shalt not kill. That's what it basically feels to me. But when you have these two young men that are basically on trial, it could have been situations like if they were to basically say like, no, we cannot do that, or yes, we have to do that, or maybe that they were afraid to really to talk back to their superior officers, because if they were to really basically talk back to their superior officers, then like I said before, they won't be discharged or probably be in the brink because of what they did. I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's kind of a forceful kind of situation. I definitely do think that really was. It doesn't matter how well you train your men and stuff like that, whatever that basically is, and take as for a job. You're trained to a structure to follow what you're supposed to do to make sure the customers get what they get what they want. If they don't get what they want, then the customers are going to complain because they're going to say like, hey, this is not right. I don't like this and stuff like that. I need a refund for this or a refund for that. I need this to be fixed and stuff like that. Oh, I don't like what you're selling here, and they will complain about that. That's what they basically will do. And the reason why they will complain about that, because that's their right to basically say that. That's what they're basically supposed to do. And to be honest with you, the good rule of thumb is the customer is always right. The customer is always right. Always right. Because that's what the customer really wants. They want what they see, what needs to be basically happen basically in the markets. Not let the government decide to say what we need to put in the markets and what we really basically don't. When it comes to military and stuff like that, military equipment and stuff like that, that's totally different. They decide who they want to put on the stand at a post, whatever it is simply just stuff like that. If a superior officer says that you have to stand at your post, that's what you're supposed to do. You have to stand at your post. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. If you were constructed to basically get a letter from the president or from the military, stuff like that, that you have to go into battle. That's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. Because if you don't, do that, then yeah, you're gonna be sent to the brink, and then you'll be discharged and stuff like that. And they'll say like, you're supposed to serve your duty. That's what you're supposed to do, and stuff like that. I will, on the person want to say here, when it comes into the military and basically that being in the military is not an easy job. It's not really basically a job. It's basically is a purpose for them to serve their country and for them to do. They take it very seriously. I think when I see those two young men basically be on trial, and basically what they did was basically because they want to be loyal, respected, and honor. They wanted to honor to their branch. They really wanted to. That's what they really wanted to do. Regardless, because that's what they best really are. They're designed, I consider, as soldiers. They're not considered as robots. No, they're not really basically really are. If they would basically consider as robots, then that means they will basically take every command, everything that's being said to them. If I would basically have a robot basically in my kitchen, somebody basically in my house, and I tell my robot to wash the dishes or cook me some food, that means the robot would basically would have done that. That means the robot would obey my every single command. Would I be considered as an officer? Basically, in a way, yes and no, but there's a reason for that, because I'm given an order. When it comes to human beings, that we're supposed to get, we're supposed to take orders. Like mom and dad gives how should I put this? Instructions or instructions to a child to teach them not to play with fire or not to play with anything that they should not be playing with or anything like that. And you have to get the record straight point to them, to tell them that they're not supposed to do that. They're supposed not to do that. It's not really a basic order. It's basically just telling them to be cautious, not to really to do that, because they're not supposed to do it. Because they're not supposed to do it. Are they supposed to go up to mommy and smack mommy in the face? No, that's not something they should do, because they'll probably get a spanking for doing that. And they'll probably get a spanking for doing that. So I think the point, what I'm trying to say here is basically that whatever is that we're supposed to do, and whatever that we're supposed to say, and whatever that we're supposed basically to do, is the act of our free will. Every man, every person does have that ability of free will, regardless if we follow orders or we do what our mommy and daddy says, or whatever this is, or our teacher, whoever it is, and stuff like that. And we have to follow them. We have to follow those. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. Like I said before, when it comes to those two young men, those based on the trial right there, it's not just because they labeled them as mommy and daddy. It's because they labeled them as because they're supposed to follow direct orders. And I will say it again. I know I sound like I'm being a broken record, repeating myself. But if I was based in that position, I would never would have done it, because I would basically follow what God wants me to follow. You know, that's basically I would basically follow. I don't believe in taking a man's life or anything like that. I don't believe that. I don't believe in that. Send me to the brink or give me the death penalty or something like that. I really don't care. That's not that. I think, I will say it again. That's abuse of power. You don't have a right to do the abuse of power basically like that. So I mean, those are just my opinions and stuff like that. And that's basically what I definitely do think. The movie is definitely good. I would rate it a 10 out of 10. I think Tom Cruise is a very great actor. I don't think that the movie should be sued just based off that. I don't think he was not really copying basically what happened, of the turn of events of basically what happened based on the true story, but making it something a little bit more different more basically more different, basically in the story that basically what we're seeing here. So yeah, like I said before, I would definitely give it rated a 10 out of 10. So I definitely do think it was a good movie. I definitely do think it was definitely really was. I understand a lot of people don't like Tom Cruise basically in such a way. I like Tom Cruise. He's a very great actor. He really actually is. He's personally one of the best legendary actors out there right now. He really actually is. I mean, feel free to argue with me with that because he's been around for a long time. He knows what he's doing, and he knows the jurisdictions and stuff like that when it comes to Hollywood and stuff like that, and stuff like that. And take as for instance for this where he lashed out his cast members, it's just people that working because with the whole COVID situation and stuff like that and stuff like that. You know, even though he has to worry that to pay people and to put food on the table for them and stuff like that. And the reason why he did that because he doesn't want any mistakes basically happen. He doesn't want nothing happen. He doesn't want nothing bad happen to them or anything like that. So I think that what it means is that Tom Cruise is basically doing what he should be doing as an actor, as a whatever that he does and stuff like that, and pursuing his dreams and stuff like that. I think he is doing a great job of what he does. I definitely think he is. I see him as a legendary actor in my own eyes, in my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me or not. But I think this film was definitely great. But I will say it again, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's a really good film. Regardless if this film should be sued or based or not, I don't think that's really not right. I think they should have every right to basically to make this film the way they see as fit, not just based on a true story, but based on something more different to make something more heavy drama, basic kind of film. But yeah, anyways, that's it for this movie review. Tell me what you guys think. Do you guys agree with me or disagree with me? What do you guys just take based on the movie? Do you guys like the movie? Do you guys like Tom Cruise? What are you guys' overall thoughts about what I said and stuff like that? I'd love to hear what you guys say. Anyways, this is Unwise. I'll see you guys there. Take care. I hope you guys have one day. Don't forget to subscribe. Please consider subscribing. Please hit the like button. Give me a thumbs up or give me a thumbs down. Excuse me. Doesn't really matter to me. And please leave comments below. Anyways, you guys have a wonderful day. Take care. Be safe. I love you guys. Take care. Bye.